I'm Dr. Dave Janda. Welcome back to the Insider Insight Show. I am honored to have back with me someone who is a very dear friend and someone who is a very dear friend of our constitutional republic and has been, well, his entire life, but in particular, starting with his service to our armed forces, Commander Scott Snow. For those of you not familiar with Scott, Scott is known for over 20-year distinguished career in the military as a fighter pilot, a military strategist, an operations strategist, and essentially a guru of situational awareness. The fact that we know that he's a guru of situational awareness is the fact that, well, as I mentioned, Scott was a fighter pilot for over 20 years. He logged in over 3,200 fighter hours, 2,025 hours in an F-14, 618 landings on aircraft carriers, and 335 combat hours. And unless you are a guru of situational awareness, he wouldn't be here today. He would have been pink mist, as he calls it, long ago. You know, when you look through Scott's career, and we could go through the fact that he was named Fighter Pilot of the Year and all of his tours of duty. But in particular, a couple of things that stand out, at least for me, is that Scott was in charge of all aviation operations for all carrier groups in the Pacific, and he oversaw operations for the Top Gun program. It's my honor to welcome back Commander Scott Snow. Scott, welcome back.
Well, thank you, Dr. Honor, and a pleasure to be back with you again.
So, Scott, we made it through November 5th. We made it through the time period up until Inauguration Day. Made it through Inauguration Day. Things, at least to me, are looking a bit up. Maybe I'm being optimistic. I want to run something by you. A political analyst by the name of Tom Woods, 2 days before President Trump was inaugurated, he said the following. Quote, "The entire U.S. regime," the Biden regime at the time, "rests on a mountain of lies that contribute to its power and enrich its key players. The history of U.S. wars and foreign policies is also a pile of lies that would embarrass a second grader. The track records of various federal agencies are distorted and lied about in order to justify ever higher budgets. As usual, the U.S. government accuses other entities and individuals of doing the very things that it does every day." End quote. So how far off is Tom?
No, he's spot on. War is always a moneymaker. And I always come back to follow the money. And you look at the military-industrial complex, and they're going to make money on this end. Guess what? They're going to make money on the other end, too. They want both sides. They want to fund both sides because they're making money hand over fist the entire time. That's just how wars make money. Mm-hmm. End of story.
And we actually, Smedley Butler, right? General Smedley Butler, one of the most decorated Marines in U.S. history, wrote that book, War is a Racket.
Yes.
And he wrote that book in 1935, which really didn't get much attention for 70, 80 years. But he was telling us exactly that, wasn't he, Scott?
Yes, very much so.
If I look back, Scott, if I talk to Scott Snow when he was an undergraduate, we're at University of Washington, right?
Correct.
Okay. And I take what you just said about war, about the military, and I show it to young Scott Snow at the University of Washington. What would the young Scott Snow say? Well, that looks like an older version of me, but I would never say something like. What would he say?
Well, you're in the spotlight and starlight of, I want to go fly fighter jets.
Yeah.
And whatever it's going to take to get there, because I don't know I do know personal people that have fighter jets now, but in the day, it's like, who's going to own an aircraft carrier? Who's going to let me go fly off of that?
Right,
who's going to let me go, blow things up?
Yeah.
It's going to be the U.S. military.
Right.
So in the, starry-eyed young child of myself at the time, it was all about getting from point A to point B.
Right.
I wanted to go be a fighter pilot, whatever that took.
So if we speak to, and as I mentioned, you ran operations for all the Pacific Aviation Group, the carrier groups, for the Top Gun program. If we speak to those folks that are currently on aircraft carriers, fighter pilots and aircraft carriers, and the folks in the Top Gun program, and we run by what you just said right after the introduction here about what war is and what the military is, what percentage of those folks would say, yeah, that's right? And what percentage of those folks would say, no, that's not it?
We're probably 50 to 70% would be down that line, understanding that you don't get a chance to fly these jets, to deploy, to do all these amazing things that most people on the earth. You have 25,000 people that have landed on a carrier. You don't have many more than that.
Right.
And it's one where for them, they understand that they're a cog in the wheel, but it's kind of a balance between, okay, yeah, most won't get political until they're 15, 20 years in. When you're a young kid, you're like, hey, I just want to go fly fighter jets. Mm-hmm. And that's where their mindset is. They don't really care so much about, what the mission is, like go this way, go make it happen. Okay, I'll go make it happen. But they don't get that deeper dive into the socio-economic, political aspects of what they're really doing.
Well, and that probably is not only the smart thing, but the only thing to do because of survival, right? Because if you're thinking about all these other issues, your situational awareness on your mission and what's in and around you, as you've always said, everybody outside your cockpit
is trying to kill you.
Is trying to kill you.
Absolutely.
Right? And if you're wondering about, about this and that, it ain't. You have a high propensity to turn into, as you call it, pink mist.
Yeah, well, I was thinking about what the State Department. No, you're worried about the SA-2 missile coming to trying to kill you,
or like we recently saw in the Red Sea, one of your own dudes, right, on friendly fire, shooting at you, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Dave, just cutting down to bare basics. The thing that scared me the most was our own troops. And those that they did not trust with a weapon, they gave them, the missile to shoot off of a Aegis carrier or a cruiser, and we called it the robo cruiser because they would put the thing into automatic, and if your identification friend or foe, your IFF, if it blinked even once, boom, here comes a missile. Right up the tailpipe.
Well, and we briefly talked about this at one point on the radio. Many people believe, well, that's like 1 in a billion chance that would happen. No, actually, Scott, it happens much more frequently, more frequently than people even imagine. Correct?
Correct. Absolutely. So anytime you take off from the carrier, you have to check in with the cruiser or the the airspace and get your IFF tested to make sure it's going. And all they're doing is they're flashing a card into your airplane before you take off from the deck. And half the time it doesn't work. And so now it's you can either saddle up to your buddy and say, oh no, mine's good, and keep going and go in country, feet dry, go kill bad guys, or it's one where, like, if your IFF isn't working, you're bound to get shot.
And you alluded to this on the radio, and some folks said, did Commander Snow, was what he said that when you're in a U.S. cockpit, if you will, in a fighter, that if friendly fire is coming from your own side, the systems in your fighter doesn't pick up, if you will, U.S. ordnance coming at you. And they said, is that true? Really? Did we understand that wrong? No, that's what you said, right?
No, that's 100% correct. So we have all of our rugged rear warning gear. It's all programmed. Your entire library is for every enemy weapon system. It has nothing in there for our own weapon systems.
Hence, you get events like happened in the Red Sea.
Correct.
So let's talk about enemy fire. Let friendly fire. Maybe not so friendly fire. Let's talk about the ramifications now that the Biden regime is stumbling away from the table, stumbling away from the bar. Give us your take, Scott, on the Biden and entourage, because it's not Biden, it's the Blinkens and everybody around him, the cult, if you will, part of the globalist cult that were handling him. Their effect on, now that they're, if they tried to burn down the building, have left the building, at least partially, their effect on the military and their effect on national security.
Well, twofold with that. Overarching picture of them is AI, arrogance and incompetence. And so they come into every situation knowing amongst themselves, they think they're the smartest person in the room, the smartest person. I'm going to do this, and I'm just going to say it so it's automatically going to happen. Mm-hmm. The biggest thing they did was take all the air out of the balloon. So just the demoralization mm-hmm. and getting led by incompetence mm-hmm. is one of the worst things you could ever do to a military. When you're more worried about DEI and pronouns and all this other bullshit that has nothing to do with warfighting, mm-hmm. and that's what you make your mainstay. Wow, can't shoot that missile, can't launch that airplane until you have the right pronouns. And it's not a airman on the flight deck directing you around, and now it's an air person. Same kind of stuff. Right. It's all the way around, and it gets to a point that anyone that has the gumption and the moral backbone to say no, that's enough. What do? They leave. Mm-hmm. They're going to go find something else. Mm-hmm. Because it no longer adheres to what we built everything on, which is trust, honor, integrity, and they betrayed our trust. There's no honor in what they were doing, and integrity they have none. So at that point, everyone just throws their hands up and, well, I'm going to leave unless I'm too vested, and I'm just going to ride this out and get my pension and go away.
And when you still have, obviously, let's call it access, you have communications with folks that are involved in the Top Gun program and the like, are the folks that are currently running the Top Gun program and also running the aviation wings of carrier groups, have they found over the last several years a degradation, if you will, or maybe not as high a level of competence in those that they're seeing come through their doors or onto their ships?
Yes. In a nutshell, yes. Go ahead.
So how do you compensate for something like that? I mean, so you're running the Top Gun program. These are the best of the best, right? And these guys who are the best of the best wouldn't be the best of the best 5 years ago or 10 years ago. So does that mean there's more intensive training? Does that mean by the time they're done, you're just going to say, well, yeah, you're an A, but you would have been a B 5 years ago? How does that work, Scott?
Well, I call it 80%ers. And the problem being, Dave, is that technology is making up the other 20%.
Okay.
So I got to it when we started getting helmet-mounted sights, everything else. Pilots started getting lazy because now instead of taking me head on, taking any of the turning room out and doing a 500-foot pass, they would be lazy. It's like, well, I could just look over here because I can shoot him anywhere up to 120 degrees. If I just look at him, I can target him and shoot an AIM-9 missile at him. So it just made them lazy. It's almost like, so you got the fat kid with a calculator instead of the linebacker with a baseball bat.
Right.
There's a big difference in that. And truth be told, it's like when all that stuff goes away, they lose their minds because think of it today. If you have a teenager and you take their cell phone away,
they're done.
They're over.
They're done.
It's like, well, I can't do anything.
What?
I'm totally paralyzed.
Right.
But I need you to go out back and chop wood. Is your phone going to help you with that? Well, no, but you need to get back to basics and learn how to chop wood, carry water, chop wood, make it happen.
So in the training programs, do they take their toys away?
Yes and no.
So they're afraid to take the toys away because they won't be proficient at using the toys. But if they let them play with the toys all the time, then if something goes south, they're done.
Correct. Absolutely. And it runs down to bare basics, and that's the good and bad of technology. Is it great that we have stuff that can do all that? Yeah. Great. But guess what? If you're in a knife fight, which is what we call, BFM, basic fighter maneuvers, you're in the phone booth with another airplane, your helmet's not going to do you any good. No. It's just going to be another 8 pounds on your head that you're going to amplify by 10 Gs trying to pull around the corner to shoot the guy that's trying to kill you.
So the, whatever you want to call it, the criminals leave the building after they tried to burn it down. They're now stumbling away. And January 20th hits, and we have Donald Trump taking the oath. Give us your take on his inauguration speech and his first couple days in office, because there was a lot that happened.
Well, the lion is back, and he's going to kick the crap out of all the hyenas that have been biting at him for the last 4+ years. Would I be vindictive? Yeah, a little bit at this point, just for the trials and tribulations that he went through to get to where he is. I would have some hard feelings, so to speak. And when your predecessor, stealing the previous, installed for the last election, is leaving a trail of Post-it notes of, pardon this guy, and this guy, and this guy, and oh wait, and this guy, and this guy, and this guy. Unbelievable. It just reeks of a, third world banana republic dictator leaving office. Well, I'm going to pardon everybody, and you just suck it. I'm out. And what surprises me is I'm sure Joe Biden, Dr. Joe Biden, is like, well, you didn't pardon me. It's like, well, maybe she'll be the one to go to jail and hang for the rest of the family. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? It's such a cluster. And in that first 24 hours, would you say that the majority of the military was like, all right.
Sigh of relief.
Yeah.
Sigh of relief that we're finally going to get back to war fighting and to cut all the bullshit. Let's get back to what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to kick in doors and implement foreign policy kinetically.
And in that first 24 hours, 42 executive orders, memorandum, proclamations, 115 personal actions, 200 executive actions. He did 60 minutes of a press conference, 3 speeches. Actually went to 3 parties, his balls, and he did a little dancing there to Elvis playing in the background. And then he cut a cake with a sword while dancing to YMCA. That's quite the full 24 hours. And then he went back to the office. As I understand it, went back to the Oval Office, drank a couple Diet Cokes, and kept working until about 3 in the morning.
It's the way he runs.
It is the way
Full
he runs.
blast all the time. Did more in 48 hours than Biden did in 4 years.
On a positive note.
Yes.
So one of those executive orders, and many people I don't think understand the significance of this, Scott, and I know you do, and I want you to educate our listeners on this. One of his executive orders was a really big move, actually, against the deep state. He revoked 51 security clearances of the 51, let's call them traitors, who engaged in treason by lying about the truth and relevance of the Hunter Biden laptop. The significance of that is that if, all these 51 have become consultants to the media, they still were able to peruse national security issues, right? And with their security clearances, and then taint that information and bring it to the bought-off lamestream fake media to direct the guns on whomever it might be who's a freedom fighter. Well, now they've lost that. And Scott, these 51 people were former, quote, intelligence officials. Educate our listeners on the importance of just that one executive order.
So here's the dirty secret on that. So when I left the military, I had a TSSCI. Mm-hmm. So I got secret part information, all the above. Mm-hmm. And I held that for 2 years. And if I went to a military contractor, say General Dynamics, XYZ, they would sponsor me. I'd hang on to that clearance. And so now I still have a TSSCI clearance, with those military contractors. If you walk out of the military with a TSSCI, mm-hmm. you're guaranteed 6 figures plus. You just walk down to Crystal City, they'll hire you immediately just because you have that clearance, because they want the access to that information. So now you have all these high-end folks that have that same security clearance. Mm-hmm. To cut them out is, to me, a very important thing. But it's also one of those, it kind of cuts the ties, and it gets into that whole, if I leave the military, I can't go and work for any contractor for a year, because all they want is they want you to open doors for them. Mm-hmm. And that's what all these, these 51 officials, that they're banking on their past. Mm-hmm. That is what is paying their bills. And if they lose that security clearance, mm-hmm. they no longer have, they're not worth it.
Mm-hmm. They no longer have access to any information.
No.
That they would not normally have if they didn't have the SCI clearance or the top secret clearance.
That is correct.
So many people say, well, wait a minute. If folks leave and they have this TSSCI clearance and they're passing information that they're still gleaning that's top secret and or SCI, sensitive compartmented information, which is the highest level of stuff, right?
Well, except
that's people will say, well, that passing information to a general or contractor on that's treason because you're taking sensitive information, top secret information, passing. It's not, though, technically.
Yeah, no, inside the system, it's not. No, unless it's the secret Corvette information, where you just store all the files in your Corvette in the garage, and then it just let anybody in to go test drive it.
It's the intelligence and military's version of how Congress can insider trade, right? Without any criminal conduct associated with it.
No, it's a get out of jail free card. It's like, how do I get insider access? I go hire these people that just got out.
So I got this from General Flynn. Here, and I want your take on this. Because you had mentioned this about when Donald Trump took the oath, and there are people that are going to pay a price. So here's what he said. It's about returning to normal. Getting back to normal is going to require holding people accountable. Anyone from the Biden or the previous Obama administrations involved in the weaponization of our justice system who accepts a Biden pardon should be immediately hauled before Congress, newly appointed federal investigators and grand juries so people can learn the truth. Those who accepted pardons strips them of their right to avoid criminal self-incrimination. Any witness who fails to testify fully and honestly should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. And all other officials involved in lawfare who broke no laws that are traditionally prosecuted should be subject to appropriate discipline as well. However, any officials who are determined to have broken laws that are historically prosecuted must be held to account for the many lives ruined, as well as the complete and total assault on our constitutional republic. This is not retribution. It is how we can start to return to normal. Scott, many people believe we shouldn't look back in the, quote, rearview mirror and just look forward. But Scott, if we, in looking back is holding people accountable. If we don't hold people accountable, those same people will resurface, and their ilk will resurface at a later date and make the problems that we've already confronted far worse. Am I off on that?
No, you're spot on. If you condone this behavior, yeah, you're going to get more of it. And I'm sorry, there's a reckoning. Mm-hmm. There is a reckoning coming. The people of America, we're ready.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think the general public, not our listeners, but the general public cannot fathom how far the system degraded and almost completely imploded, Scott.
Yes. It's been a growing snowball since '63.
Yeah. It has been an avalanche, as you allude to.
Yep.
An avalanche of criminality, an avalanche of injustice. You know, and when we look at the military, one of the people who were stripped of their security clearances, and actually his portrait was taken down at the Pentagon, is Mark Milley, former head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. You know, Scott, many people believe that, and remember, he was one of the people that Biden did a preemptive pardon for. Mm-hmm. Not sure what a preemptive pardon is. It doesn't exist in the Constitution. The legal eagles I talk to say there's no substance behind this. Mark Milley, you know, there's concern that in the Pentagon there's going to be a warrior board developed that will review every 4-3, 2, 1 star, and whatever level below a 1 star that they deem necessary. Of their roles over the past number of years. And one of the people at the top of the list is Mark Milley. And there's talk about bringing Mark, and even though he's retired, you can still court-martial someone.
And
bringing him back, court-martialing him, and possibly even charging him criminally because of his activities such as, and he admitted to, well, I have a working relationship with, this is the end of the Trump administration, with the Chinese. I talked to them and would give them a heads up if an attack was imminent. Treason.
Yeah.
Was integral in the J6 operation, in the planning and the operational development and the operation itself. So, Scott, Mark Milley, you have a problem with him being brought up for court-martial?
No, not at all. It's one, when you swear an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States, that's an oath. Mm-hmm. You break that, like Gitmo. Mm-hmm. Sorry. Just, it's one of those, a lot of bloviating 4-star admirals, generals, they get so utterly full of themselves, and they get into such a political aspect of what's going to be, you know, them in the current power that they hold, as well as what's going to hold for them in the future, that they lose sight of reality, and lose sight of any reign of bringing them back in, and that's where he went. I don't want to say it's almost apocalypse now, but he got off the reservation doing his own thing, and needs to be, held accountable for it.
And do you have a problem with this potential warrior board being convened to review the brass?
No, because everything goes political. Once you get past 05, 06, it's all political. And even 06, that's a very political appointment across the services. Is now it's who do you want to go align with? Are you going to go align with the operators? Are you going to go align with the administrators?
Right.
And the problem being is over the last 20 years, administrators have held all the power. And so you have to go along to get along if you want to keep going up the chain. And so they turn into politicians, no longer warfighters. They forget their roots. They turn into politicians, and that's a problem.
So, Scott, is it an overstatement to say, and we heard during the Obama administration that he brought much, if not all, of the higher brass in, and or his people did, and essentially asked for an allegiance to whatever Obama dictates were going to come forward. And those that weren't willing to blanket sign off on, whatever O man says, I'll go with, and his handlers say I'll go with. Many of those were pushed out the door. So right now, if we do a status assessment of the higher brass 4, 3, 2, 1-star generals, admirals that inhabit the Pentagon, are we talking 100% of all of them are
99?
99? Okay.
So, Dave, think about it. It's like they've all been brought up over the last 15 to 20 years.
Yeah.
And they're all Obamaites, if you will.
And globalistites, if you will. So Scott, we got a cancer there. I'm a surgeon. I'm not going to take 90% of the tumor out, or 80 or 70 or 40 or 20%. I'm going to take all the tumor out of this patient that has cancer. We cut 99% of those out of the Pentagon, the brass, right? That's Obama acolytes, globalist acolytes. Many people say, well, you have a military that's now dysfunctional. No, wait a minute. My contention is you were dysfunctional with the cancer. You can take healthy parts and move healthy parts up. Am I wrong on that assessment?
No, you're 100% correct. You think about it in the growth of government and everything else. Mm-hmm. How many 4-stars did we have in World War II?
We had like 4, right?
Correct.
4.
Yeah. And now we have close to 50.
Yeah.
Like, cut them out. Sorry. There's so many. I want to say like made up commands, like, oh, it's AFRICOM. What? So we needed a new 4-star command to be in charge of Africa. It's like, how many bases do we have in Africa? We don't. But you have a 4-star in charge of it, so it's going to be great. With an entire staff and all the belongings for a 4-star to now this is your command. If the American public had like a basic open window to look at the military in general, you would see it is so top heavy, it's just beyond belief.
And then you have the money side of it. They haven't passed an audit, what, in 14 years?
Yeah.
Right. And they're missing, Dr. Mark Skidmore was on our show in the past, missing trillions of dollars, tens of trillions of dollars, right?
Well, the biggest thing, Dave, I've learned after retiring from the military is that the government and the military,
Yeah.
saving money is not in their DNA.
No.
So when I was running ops for Fallon, Nevada, so I had 45 airplanes, 150 pilots working for me, flying every day, all day, and they gave me close to $10 million a quarter. So that's $10 million every 3 months. But the months of January, February, March,
Yeah.
we had bad weather, couldn't fly. And they're like, well, you got to use that money. Otherwise, we won't give you that same money for April, May, June. What? So it's one where they want you have to spend the money to keep the money flowing. Because if you show any bit of
Cost savings, right? Yeah.
or I'm doing more with less,
Yeah. You're penalized.
you're over. You're not going to get the money back.
You don't get an attaboy, and you don't get a promotion for that.
Correct. Yeah, you got to spend it all.
So, some of the most effective moves President Trump can make in the ensuing days, weeks, and months as it relates to the military.
Run it like a business.
Yeah.
Accountability, and there's so much wasteful spending that you see it every single day. And you get back to the myths of the $600 toilet, the $500 hammer, those things. But it is inside the complex, and you need to break the chain between. It's essentially tail wagging the dog. Mm-hmm. So it's the military-industrial complex. Hey, you need this weapon system. Oh, I do? And then the military pays for it. The military rolls over, shows their belly every single time for the iron brokers. They're just like, well, you need this F-35. How many of those are functional right now? I don't know, 25% of the fleet fully functional? 25 for a $160 million airplane.
It's unbelievable.
No, it's crazy. And we spent 1.5 trillion in research and development with Lockheed Martin to bring this thing to bear. I go back to the F-22. We locked in, here's what we needed to do in 1989. Mm-hmm. It comes out in 2005. Be great if you can go in a time machine back to 1989, because now it'd be King Kong back then, but now it's 2005, and life has already moved on. You have another 15 years of development on jamming systems, on electronic warfare, on everything else that just has nullified your airplane that you worked on for 15 years to finally pop out the other side of the bubble.
Do we use a 15-year-old laptop?
No.
Right? I mean, that's what you're essentially. That's what you're saying, right? We were going to purchase the laptop in '89, but it took us till 2005 to get the laptop. The thing runs on a hamster, for gosh sakes.
Dave, speed of government. When I was at Pac Fleet, 2005, we had 486 DX2 computers. We finally
you had 4?
Yeah. 2005.
You had 4.
2006, we got the big upgrade and got the Pentium.
Wow. Whoa.
Yeah. Crazy. Oh my God. But that's the speed of government. That is the speed of government.
Well, so here's the thing. With that speed it's like, there's the speed of sound, and then there's the speed of like crawling, not even crawling. I don't know what it is. But here's the thing, Scott, as you mentioned, the monetary cost to the taxpayer for these antiquated systems, because they take so long to come through the sausage factory, deliberately so, it's just incomprehensible. Because people say, well, we spent $1 trillion on that, but it's the state of the art. No, wait, it was the state of the art 15 years ago that we're getting now.
Correct.
And the downside, Scott, is that it puts our country's national security in jeopardy, and it puts the person, in this case, in a fighter cockpit, in jeopardy as well.
Very much so. Everyone else does spiral development.
Yeah.
If you want to take Israel, for a quick example, so we sell Israel F-16s.
Yeah.
The first thing they do is gut all the electronics out of it and put in their own stuff because it is that much better than our own. To a point that I can't throw a missile at any Israeli F-16 or F-15.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
But our guys, well, just do what you got. Just do with what you got.
You're getting the Chevy flatbed with a 4-speed and vinyl floors. Good luck.
So Scott, one of the big concerns has been World War III. You and I have discussed this at length, but now we got a new sheriff in town. Is it premature to say that the odds of a World War III or the escalation of the current fronts have diminished since January 20th? Is that an overstatement?
No, it's gone down dramatically, and it's part of the whole, peace. When you have a strong leader,
yeah,
people pay attention.
Yeah.
And there's a long-standing relationship with Trump, Putin, Xi. They get each other.
Uh-huh.
They know that they all mean business.
Yeah.
And so there's no. To me, there's much less of a chance. You're still going to have a non-kinetic World War III, which has been going on for a while,
right.
Which is information. It just on down the line, economic, information, warfare. It's still going to go on, but I see the three of them sitting down and getting down to brass tacks.
Well, and within that first 48 hours, President Trump came out publicly, and I'm sure he also had a phone call with Putin on the Russia-Ukraine thing and as well prior to that. But he said, we got to end this. We got to stop this nonsense.
Yep.
We got to stop the killing. We have to stop this nonsense. And what many people are unaware of, and I heard this from some folks with significant ties, said that within 48 hours of Trump taking the oath, they halted arms shipments to Ukraine. That Biden had just promised January 19th, by the way, prior to him doing the pardons on January 20th. The United States has withdrawn all applications for the transit of goods in the interests of Ukraine that's coming through Eastern Europe. All shipments and weapons and military equipment to Ukraine have been stopped at NATO bases in Europe. All Pentagon employees involved in arms supplies to Kiev have been suspended or fired. A large-scale audit of the misuse of funds for aid to Ukraine has been commenced. And he ordered his special representative, Kellogg, to resolve the conflict in Ukraine within 100 days.
Pretty succinct.
Well, that's more than taking the bull by the horns, right?
Yes.
That's taking the globalists by the balls.
Yeah.
Because they're really all about World War III.
Well, it's all about money laundering and doing everything they can to cover up their crimes.
Now let's talk. So that's what he's doing on that front. It's my understanding also that he laid the wood to Netanyahu. And the same thing on the arms side. Now, what do you believe he should do on the Middle East front?
Go back to the Abraham Accords.
Yeah.
go back to each one of the countries and resurrect that, and put BB back in his box. The biggest thing with Israel, it's almost, if you remember the cartoon with the little yappy dog that's jumping over the big dog, it's like, come on, Spike, go get him, Spike, go get him, Spike.
Yeah.
That's Israel.
Yeah.
Trying to get us into wars that they can't fight, but they want us to fight for them. So that's the biggest thing that we need to stop.
How does he handle Iran?
You've
dealt with Iran. All right. I mean, tangentially. How does he deal with Iran?
You do it through your proxy, which is going to be Vladimir Putin.
Yeah, Putin and G.
Yep, 100%. Dave, when it comes down to it, it's all about who holds the purse strings to run your regime. And you cut the money off, you cut the arms off, you cut the funding off, everyone's dead in the water.
Right. Yeah, if you cut the money off, you cut the BS off. If you cut the guns down, you cut the killing down, right? Now they're forced to talk. Now they are forced to go in the room.
You may be sitting at the kids' table, but you're at least sitting at the table.
That's right. And what about Taiwan? We've discussed this before. What surprised me about all of that was that China didn't move into, I mean, they're already in Taiwan with their fifth column, I get it. But what surprised me is we didn't have more of an overt China takedown of Taiwan when Biden was in power.
I think part of it, they have a 150-year plan.
Right.
And as we spoke about before, it's they want to have such overwhelming odds.
Yeah, that there's no chance of failure.
That there's no chance of anything pushing back. The biggest losing of face for them would be if they go to try to take Taiwan and they get stopped cold.
Yeah.
Which they don't have the confidence that would be the case.
Yeah. And what better way to bring a country down actually is on the inside, right?
Oh, well, look at the U.S., Dave.
Yeah, right. It's the same. It's the same
you
playbook.
Want to tear us down? It's going to collapse from the inside.
Right.
And we got really close to getting there.
So, Scott, final question or final topic. For weeks before the election, we heard about drones. It's China, it's Russia, it's Martians, it's this, it's that, it's whatever. And now all of a sudden you don't hear about the drone, right? Now my contention, Scott, and you're the expert, and I'm not, but from things that I have heard, I called the whole operation "Drones Are Us," right? That no, you don't have to be looking at China, Russia, or Martians. This was us. Am I off on that? Whoop.
No, you're spot on.
Yeah. And in fact, Scott, the U.S. government possesses technology that the public is completely unaware of. And in fact, many people in the government and maybe even the military are certain aspects of the military are unaware of. Is that an overstatement?
No, that's spot on. The problem being is that if this technology comes out, it completely upends our entire fossil fuel-based economy. It upends the entire military-industrial complex. Mm-hmm. Why would I bring a technology out that negates me selling $160 million fighter jets, employing 2.3 million people in the industrial complex? It's one where it's such a leap from where we are, mm-hmm. that one, yes, maybe they're trying to soften up the American public to believe it, mm-hmm. but it's one where it's going to change everything if they bring it out. And that's what they're afraid of.
So will they ever bring it out? Or is this something that they just kind of whiff in front of the public when they want to try to, I don't know, do the whole distraction fear thing?
I think in the next 3 to 6 months,
Yeah.
they're going to bring out more, but it's going to be, off of Earth. It's going to be, their last hurrah of, well, it's UFOs. These aren't ours. No, these came from elsewhere, and these people are going to get everyone scared again, and go, crowd up in their homes and wait for big government to come in and save them.
Mm-hmm. And Scott, in the Trump 1.0 administration, they developed Space Force. Right? I'm sure he's going to put more emphasis again on Trump 2.0 on Space Force. Where do you see Space Forces going? The Space Force program, the Space Force wing, if you will, going in the next 10 to 15 years?
More of like an absorption of the NSA, if that makes sense.
Uh-huh.
They're all doing the same thing,
right.
But it's just now you have a DoD collective that's doing all of it. They're just, think of it as an intel sponge, mm-hmm. and they're pulling everything from everywhere and sorting it, and that's where they're going to go. I don't want to get into, satellites and everything else. We have lots of that stuff.
Right.
And if that's under their purview, great.
Yeah.
But it's also one of those, they're to me, it's another offshoot that's going to kind of suck the wind out of the NSA, and NSA slowly dissolves, mm-hmm. and turns into Space Force.
Last question, and I've never asked you this, and if you don't want to answer, don't. Okay? And if you and I get in a fighter jet, okay, and we have a refueler with us, and you say, "Hey, Dave, where do you want to go?" And I go, "Hey, Scott, I've heard a lot of stuff. I don't know what to believe about Antarctica. And we got this refueler with us. Let's go fly over Antarctica." Now, rumor has it that if you try to fly over Antarctica, you're not going to be allowed. I don't know if that's true or not. Is that true or not?
These things I don't know.
Okay. Because my next question was, when Scott and Dave are over Antarctica and you take it down and we're looking, other than ice, are we going to see anything? Because there are a lot of folks saying, yeah, there are these military bases and there's this and there's that. You have any I don't know, any guess what we might come across?
Well, I have inkling and research and things that I've looked at. Yeah. So is there something there? Guarantee it.
You guarantee it.
You're not going to have a continent without us on it.
Yeah. So more than just a little cabin down there sampling weather.
A little bit, yeah. We're not there testing the ice.
So, Scott, when you survey the world at this point, which is I think a little bit of a different surveying opportunity than we had when Il Demente was there, what concerns you the most from a geopolitical standpoint?
Geopolitical standpoint is the powers that were will not give up power willingly.
Yeah.
You had your quote peaceful transfer of power with post-it notes of pardons going out the door of the window as they're driving away. My worry is that there's something else coming, mm-hmm. and it's because they're not going to let go.
No,
and they want to throw the world back into chaos because chaos is where they rule, and that's what worries me.
Worries me also. And I also think he recently had an executive order stopping anything the NIH, CDC, or FDA could come out with. information, right? And I believe the reason why is because he knew that they were going to start doing their bag of tricks of putting false information out about whatever it is, what, I don't know, bird flu or armadillo flu, or God only knows what they're going to,
Dave.
Yeah.
Dave, it's going to be squirrel pox.
Yeah, squirrel pox. Yeah, right. Something that's ubiquitous, right? Sparrow pox, right? Or robin pox. Oh, there are a lot of robins around. But my concern, Scott, is the same as yours, that they're not done. They haven't left quietly. And in fact, I believe, and you might disagree with this, is that they're already taking down the financial system. They're going to bury this thing in its own footprint. And that is where they can wreak the most havoc.
Correct. Yes.
So, Scott, how can folks follow you on a regular basis?
They can find me on Truth Social. Find me on Facebook. Now that Zuckerberg turned the corner. Oh, I'm a good guy now.
Yeah, right.
But that or flakefighter at gmail.com. If they want to reach out on email, happy to do that.
And Scott, you have mentioned on the radio before a company you're affiliated with that focuses on health and wellness. Why don't you speak about that for a minute? Okay,
it's rebalancehealth.com, and essentially it's all natural. It is something that will help balance your hormones. It's preventive vice. It's proactive vice, reactive medicine. So this balances your hormones, reduces your cortisol levels. If you're female, we've had, I can't say FDA approved, but everyone that we've had that's been going through menopause stops all the hot flashes, everything else. Just it basically balances everything, and they go through it nice and easy.
Age groups, who can take this?
Everybody. And it's
what about if a woman's pregnant?
Absolutely.
No issues.
No issues. And it's all on the approved list of supplements for the military as well.
So that's really important, right?
Extremely.
Because as a doc, when I take care of folks in the military, and I would take care of a number of fighter pilots, holy cow, these folks, it's like, no, I don't know, an aspirin, I don't know about that. So that is an incredible seal of approval.
Yes.
So someone who sits in a cockpit can take this.
Correct.
That's huge.
Yes, very much so. Well, and the FAA limits us, like, you have a cold, Sudafed, Afrin.
No, that's it.
Your two options. That's all you get.
It was a tug of war getting folks if they wanted to take some like Motrin.
Yeah.
Oh no, can't do that. Okay, name website again for that.
Rebalancehealth.com.
Perfect. Commander Snow, I'd like to thank you for everything you have done, are doing, and will do. I thank you folks for joining us. Until next time, Dave Janda signing off. Dream big and dare to fail. Thanks for your time today.